Hello my friends, this is Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez and I'm broadcasting through Truth Be Told Radio Network. And you can listen to me every Friday, this and every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But also there is a rerun every Saturday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And furthermore, you can go to Spotify and search for Truth Be Told Radio Network and listen to over 100 programs of the same nature that this one. And we're talking about you. We're talking about health and health maintenance and general management. You see, we learn to manage a lot of things. We learn how to operate a lot of things. We read about how we run our air conditioners or our cars or our power mower, and we know how to service them. We know what type of oil, what type of gas, what type of everything, how often it should be done, etc. Yet we know very little about ourselves. I mean, we eat because from the moment we're born, we immediately look for the nipple because we start sucking. Actually, sucking is one of the first instinctive reflexes that humans have. The minute you're born, the minute you're going to start looking for sucking on something because you want to eat. That's survival, plain survival. If you don't know how to do it, then you're going to die. So children eat from that moment on, and we keep on eating and eating and eating for the rest of our lives. The problem is that, like with everything in life, we need guidance. We need somebody to tell us how to do this. When we go to school, they teach us to read, they teach us to add, they teach you geography, they teach you a lot of things. So you always have guidance in terms of this sort of education. But nobody tells you, you know, you should eat this, you should eat that. And particularly nowadays when we tend to fill children up instead of feeding them. We just want them to be calorie satisfied. We want them to don't give us any problems. I've seen it over and over, and you've seen it yourselves. You go to the supermarket and you see a child crying and making a lot of problem because he wants that candy. And parents don't stop to say, no, honey, that's not good for you. First of all, any child that asks or demands for this type of thing, what's going to happen is that he has never taught any better. So he's probably been given candies before, and he's probably been successful in achieving his quest for this candy before. So now he knows that if he screams, if he demands, if you're going to end up saying, okay, I'll give you the candy to shut you up. That's the whole idea. And then one thing brings the other. Children learn to eat their way. Now, I want you to think for a second. Would you let a 5-year-old drive your car? I mean, regardless of that, he will not be able to reach anything, but would you let him do it? Would you let him get on the passenger car and tell you which way to go, where to turn? Would you trust your child, your 5-year-old child, to tell you what's a good job for you, what you should be doing, how you should be doing your work? Of course not, because he doesn't know. However, when it comes to food, you say, what do you want for dinner? Knowing that children are going to ask for things that are not good for them because we have brought them up that way. In other words, when children are born, when children are very young, they don't demand ice cream. They don't demand cookies. They don't demand sugar. We teach them to like it. See, because it's a very easy way to compensate or to negotiate with children. I'll give you this if you do that. And of course, if they like sugar, they'll learn two things. One, to like sugar, and the other one, to feel it as a reward. So psychologically, eating sugar is very supportive. And what we have to do is we have to teach children different. See, I have always said, children are given to us as a responsibility. They're not a toy, they're not a pet. We have to be very responsible about how we are going to bring them up. If not, we're going to encounter the problems that we're seeing today. What are those problems? Those problems are that we are coming to some of the first generations where parents are going to attend to their children's funeral because people are dying young, 50 years, 40 years. They're having a heart attack, they're having a stroke, they're having problems that used to be old people's problems. We have very young people with cancer, very young people with heart disease, very young people with arthritis, with Alzheimer's, and every time we have them younger because we are creating the problem. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about a mechanism that is a very important way for survival. If we didn't have it, like everything else, God has put everything in perfection. And it is one of the systems that allows life to continue. And that is inflammation. Inflammation is a very natural response of our body to a number of different problems, to a number of different aggressions. We get a problem with an infection, we have a problem with a trauma, we have a problem with a chemical, we have a sunburn. Anything that attacks our body is going to encounter inflammation as the way to fight it off. So, inflammation is a very important part of survival. If we couldn't respond with inflammation, I doubt we would pass our childhood years, because any small thing would kill us. I mean, if you get any little problem, if you just get a scratch, if you hit somebody in your body, that will continue, that will escalate to become a bigger and bigger and bigger problem until it'll finally take over your whole body and kill you. But we have inflammation to stop it. I'm going to use an example that I like to use because we all have seen it, we all have lived with it, we all have gone through it, and that is what inflammation is. Let's say you shut the door of your car and you forget, oops, you left a finger. And then you open right back the door and you look at your finger and you're going to see a number of things that are the characteristic signs of inflammation. They're going to be very dramatic, they're going to be instantaneous, they're going to be everything that in a major or lesser extent we suffer every day. I'm going to talk about how and when, but let's concentrate right now on that finger. That finger is going to start swelling. It's going to start growing in volume because a lot of blood is coming to that area. That is what makes it bigger. We open up a lot of blood vessels and that blood is coming into that finger. And because you have a lot of blood, it's going to turn reddish. And because it has a lot of blood, it's going to get hot. You see, and you have some of the cardinal signs of inflammation: heat, volume, and the redness, the color. So when you see that, in a limb, when you see that in your tummy, when you see that in your face, you say, oh, this is inflamed. Because it's red, because it's bulky, because it's hot. I see. So that is going to give you these signs of inflammation. And that happens because your body wants to repair the damage. You have destroyed a lot of cells when you push that door on your finger. And those cells, when they broke up, they send a signal to the body, to the whole body. You can feel it in your head, you can feel it in your toes. To the whole body to say, here we have a real big problem. And what the body does is will open up all the blood vessels that go to that area, send a lot of blood, because the blood is going to send all the repair elements. Now, the body doesn't know if you got an infection, if there is any foreign debris. It doesn't know anything, he just knows it's been hurt. And then your body is going to be allowed to get a lot of blood, a lot of white blood cells, a lot of proteins that are going to start healing, fighting problems, healing on the other hand at the same time, and everything is going to start coming back to normal. Of course, you're going to have a lot of pain, which is another of the signs of inflammation. Inflammation is pain. If you have pain anywhere in your body, it's because of inflammation. Keep that in mind, because we're going to come back to that pain. Well, then, as things recuperate, because of all that blood bringing all those supplies, and all that blood taking out all the debris and all the damaged cells and everything that's going to be discarded, things start coming back to normal. Blood will also carry stem cells that are going to produce the new cells, and as time goes by, everything is going to heal, is going to be recuperated, is going to be absolutely normal. And probably 1 year from now, you might not even remember that last year you hit your finger with the car's door. So that is the way it works. Keep it very much in mind, very clearly, because we're going to come back to all of that and talk about more serious stuff. Stay with me. My dear friends, I'm Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, and today I'm very happy, like every Friday, like every Saturday, like every time I'm talking to you, and hopefully you're following me through Truth Be Told Radio Network. You can also get to me through the social media of your choice, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and ask questions, and I will welcome all your comments, all your questions, and I will try to get back to you. I promise I'll get back within 24 hours, but I'll try to give you the best of my knowledge in order to help you. And today we're talking about a very important, something that it's becoming more and more important, which is inflammation. Suffice to tell you that 7 out of 10 people who die today are going to die because of an inflammatory condition, through a chronic inflammation. And inflammation is the origin of cancer, of heart disease, of stroke, of Alzheimer's, of course, arthritis. I could tell you so many other diseases that we are afraid of that are going to be triggered by chronic inflammation. And I'm trying to explain what inflammation is, and we have already explained how inflammation is a blessing in the normal world because without it, we would not survive. It allows us to fight back against infections and chemicals and trauma. It's going to keep us living. It's that simple. Without inflammation, I don't think any one of us would have survived to the age we have today. Because something minor would already be a terrible problem that could have even taken over our bodies and, of course, our lives. So inflammation is very important. So don't take it wrong. You don't have to say inflammation is bad. No, inflammation is a blessing. It's part of our body. And once again, our body was made in perfection. Now, what can go wrong with that very important life-saving process? What can go wrong is that inflammation was designed to respond to different type of aggressions, like chemicals. Like if you get a chemical in your hand, or you drink something that's a bad chemical, or you take any of those things, it can trigger an inflammation. Also, if you hit, we're talking about your finger in the door, but if you hit with a hammer, if you just bump into something, it's going to, oh my God, I bumped my foot on the bedstand, and oh my God, it feels awful and it hurts. So all these things are inflammation. When you get a sunburn, that's a very good example that we all have lived through it. The skin gets swollen, red, hot, and painful. Oh, don't touch me because I have a sunburn. You see, and that inflammation is there to help us to heal and go back to normal. And to normality we go with any of the examples I'm telling you. You break a bone. It can be a terrible trauma. You just broke your bone. Well, there's going to be a heavy inflammatory process around the broken bone that's going to bring a lot of things and is going to start the healing process. And we know, I know, that many times you have broken a bone and probably you don't even remember, and you say, oh yeah, when I was a kid I fell off the bike and then I broke my arm, but I was with a cast for so long and it's gone. It's history. Because that's the way inflammation should work. You get the problem, you have the inflammatory response, everything is taken care of, and the same way all this inflammatory response appear should fade away and go back and retreat and let our bodies function with normality. What's happening in our world today? What's happening in our world today is that we are creating something that's called chronic inflammation. And that's a tiny little level of inflammation, most of the time. Some people it can be bigger, where we're producing an inflammatory response in the whole body. This is a systemic inflammatory response. Our whole body is in constant inflammatory activity. What can do that? Well, that can happen because we might be putting in our body things that don't belong there. And the problem is that some of those substances might be categorized as foods, like refined sugar. Refined sugar now it's been more and more accepted as an inflammatory producer. What about excess of vegetable oil? And by vegetable oil, I mean oils extracted from grains, like corn, for example. I just ask people, when you see corn, do you see any fat in it? No, it has to be extracted with petroleum derivatives, and then it has to be isolated and change the smell, change the color, change the flavor with chemicals. So when you take those oils, you're getting things that do not belong in your body. So the body responds with inflammation. Excess sugar will respond with inflammation. Because when we eat sugar in excess, that sugar is going to mix with certain proteins and produce compounds that the body identifies as a problem. Why? Because our bodies were not created to eat the amounts of sugar that we eat. Many children in the United States of America will eat their weight in white sugar every year. If you have a 50-pound child, he might be eating probably his weight in sugar in a year. Because he has soda pop, because he has cookies, because he has this, because he has cakes, because he has the other. And many times even salty foods, like bread. If you buy bread, read the label. It has sugar in it. Why? Because sugar makes bread softer. Did you know that? Real bread is not soft, it's heavy. But if you want to make it very soft, very cushion-like, you have to put sugar in it. So if you want to do ice cream, you have to put a lot of sugar, otherwise it becomes a popsicle. Not the smooth, nice thing that we see. That's because of sugar and because of fat. And bad fat, I should say. Cheese. I go to the supermarket and read the labels and I cannot believe it. Many cheeses are not milk. They're not dairy products anymore. So read the label. Make sure you're eating the honest foods that God provided for us. If not, you're doing a terrible disservice to your body. And some people tell me, yeah, but this good, better food might be a little bit more expensive. Well, eat less. That's a good advice. We can all. I don't know anybody that could not afford to eat less calories than the calories he eats today, or she eats today. We all can afford to eat less. And we're going to spend less money. Second, if we eat the right food, sometimes it's going to be cheaper. Okay? Lima beans are a lot cheaper than a steak. Even an artichoke, which is an expensive vegetable, could be cheaper than many meats. So, if we learn to eat well, and there are a lot of tutorials about it, and we educate ourselves, we're going to fight that inflammation. But that chronic inflammation is working on a lot of tissues. That chronic inflammation, for example, the one related to sugar, can affect our central nervous system because it produces antibodies inside the nervous system. And with time, that could become Alzheimer's. Are you afraid of Alzheimer's? Cut sugars off. It's so important that many researchers begin to call Alzheimer's diabetes type 3. Type 1, the one in children that do not produce insulin. Type 2, the one you produce because you're overeating and gaining weight and neglecting your body with some hereditary help. And type 3 would be Alzheimer's. Cancer begins as an inflammatory process. Why? Because when we get inflammation, one of the responses of inflammation is to block self-destruction of cells. You know, we have a system in our body that's called apoptosis. When a cell knows it cannot work any longer, when a cell knows it cannot fix the problems it has, it self-destructs. Well, inflammatory markers will block that. Why? Because you have just been hurt, you need every cell, even faulty cells, so we're going to keep those for a while. But what if inflammation is chronic? If inflammation is there day in, day out? It didn't come in when I hit and it hasn't gone in a week. What if inflammation continues in your body today and next year and the following year and the following year? You are blocking a very important system of preservation of the body by destroying the cells that are giving problems, by self-destruction. So apoptosis is blocked, and that's one of the major characteristics of cancer development. You see, it ties all together. It is very important for us to learn, to educate about this subject. My dear friends, we're talking about inflammation. So I want you to be with me. I want you to follow me. I want you to join me. I want you to go to the social media of your choice, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and follow me and learn more about everything our body does and how we can help it to be successful, how we can help it to be healthy. Because the healthier we are, the better off we're going to be. I always say it pays to be healthy because you're going to be able to do a lot of things, to achieve a lot of things. You're going to make your life a dream life. You will not have to be going to the doctor, to the lab, taking medication that has a lot of side effects. You're not going to feel bad. You're going to be the contrary. You're going to be performing. So this and every program is available for you to listen again or to share to people, with people you love, if you just search on Spotify, search for Truth Be Told Radio Network. And you have over 100 programs that are going to talk about this. And I'm talking about inflammation, particularly chronic inflammation, because it's the major source of deadly disease in America. Statistics tell me that 7 out of 10 people are going to die because of an inflammatory disease, either as the major cause or as the original cause. And with that, I could tell you that cancer or heart disease is the #1 killer. Just with heart disease, you have the #1 killer in America being produced by chronic inflammation. So if we could avoid it, we'd be a lot better. We'd be a lot healthier. We would spend a lot less money in medical care and more money in preventive care. More than preventive care, I like to talk about predictive care, because we know where our weaknesses are, and I have to work on those weaknesses. My dad had a heart attack, I have to watch for that. My dad had prostate cancer, I have to watch for that. My mother had breast cancer, I have to watch for that. In my family, I have several people with diabetes, I have to watch for that. I have several people with high blood pressures, I have to watch for that. It's very simple. It's just predictive care. You see? And I'm going to refer about few people that I have seen lately. I'm a doctor, I see patients every day. I'm not talking just off the top of my head, with chronic inflammatory processes that are a real big problem. They're a real big problem because even though they're not like cancer or a stroke, they give a lot of suffering. One of them is a 30-year-old gal, very young person, professional, working, good job, going up. All of a sudden, she notices that she cannot see with one eye. Wouldn't you panic? If you were her mother, wouldn't you panic? If you are her husband or father, of course you're going to panic. You're going to say, what's going on? They start looking for what is the problem, and they find she has an optic neuritis. This is inflammation of the optic nerve. Why? Because she probably has inflammation in other parts of her nervous system, like in multiple sclerosis. MS is a very frequent disease, a lot more than what we would admit. And this is a relative to that. Then I saw a lady, 69 years old, with pains and cramps all of her body, who can hardly walk, who's trouble knee pain. Because of that, she is even with more problems to move and walk and do her life, and who used to be a very active lady. She's a survivor of breast cancer. She created a foundation to help women with breast cancer. She has made a lot of fundraisers to help people with breast cancer that doesn't have the means. And this admirable lady now has given all these activities to somebody else because she cannot any longer do them. And the other one is a person that is, again, very active. She takes care of a big ranch. She moves around and takes care of people and crops and etc. And all of a sudden, she cannot do what she used to do because she doesn't have strength in her legs. That's what she says. She can hardly walk. She can hardly stand. She's having a lot of problems. And at the same time, she refers pain and problems in her hands. And she says they're like stiff. And her legs are the same thing and has all these tiny little pains and problems without being very dramatic. Yet, the biggest problem is now she can hardly move. And then you look at them, you look at all of them, and all of them have a chronic inflammatory condition. Number one, when I tested for the three of them, all of them are low in vitamin D, D3. This is becoming a real major problem. We're supposed to be one of the best taken care of societies in the world. Yet we have basic nutritional deficiencies, number one, because we don't know, number two, because we're ignorant. Because if we knew better, we could go to the laboratory, we could go to our doctor and say, I want to know what's my level of vitamin D. The worst part is that some of these ladies went to the doctor and vitamin D was never tested. But levels were very low. Now, vitamin D is very important because vitamin D is exactly the opposite of what we're talking about. Vitamin D is anti-inflammatory. What else is anti-inflammatory? Omega-3s, fish oil. I'm talking about things that cost nothing, peanuts. But we don't do them because we don't know. We don't educate ourselves. So, I look at these people and I start with the first thing that medicine has completely forgotten about. Completely forgotten. Bed rest. When is the last time your doctor told you, go home, stay home, be quiet for a few days? We don't do that anymore. The other part that medicine has forgotten, yet was part of the medical pharmacopoeia of the United States up to probably 1950s or 60s, which is enemas. Why enemas? Because enemas are a very important anti-inflammatory strategy. And when you ask all these people if they have any digestive problems, they're going to tell you yes. One had chronic diarrhea. The other one was constantly constipated. The other one was always bloated. that tells you that that intestinal flora, that intestinal health is not there. And the most important anti-inflammatory organ of the body, the most important anti-inflammatory possibility of your body is in your gut. And if you don't know that, it's like with the vitamin D. If you don't know, you're not going to do it. It's simple, it's easy, but you're not going to do it. See? So it's not a matter of, I should do this, I should do that. It's a matter of, I have to learn. I have to educate myself. I have to see how I feel. Am I bloated? Am I going to the bathroom every day? Am I constantly constipated? One of these ladies was telling me she has taken pills to move her bowel for the last 20 years. Now, I don't think God created us that way. I don't think God told us to have a pill every day to move our bowels. And that's because of the type of diets that we lead. That's because of the type of water intake that we have. That's because of a lot of things we do. We do it wrong. So this is what my message is always about. We have to educate ourselves. We have to learn, because there are a lot of very simple things we can do to be healthy and to stay healthy and to change diseases. Well, we started making all these corrections in all these people. I'm going to tell you in a few more minutes what we did. But when you start doing all of this, they started getting very good results. And the three cases are different. One was given a normal therapy plus everything I proposed. Excellent results, record time. What's record time? 4 days, 5 days. The other one had already been taking all the things, steroids and all the things of therapy that a normal medical environment would provide, to no avail. Yet she comes to BioCare hospital, and in a week she starts looking at very important results. And the other one never took any therapy, and she's probably the one that improved the most when we started all these anti-inflammatory procedures, all this vitamin D replacement, all this support to their intestinal flora that we did in all of them, that's one of the common denominators of BioCare, making sure my intestinal flora is good and healthy. And she had fantastic results. How good they are? She went back home and didn't go back, she didn't take back her cancer organization activities because they were already in good hands. As she couldn't work anymore, she had already passed this job to somebody else and was doing an excellent job. So what she did, she started a new organization to help people to understand how important it is to eat better and to be healthy and to have a very good intestinal flora and to have a very good anti-inflammatory strategy every day of your life. You see, you can do it. I'll be with you. My dear friends, I'm Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, very excited because I hope I can send you, I can convey you the message of an anti-inflammatory life, of fighting off inflammation. You don't need it. It is our biggest enemy. It's damaging every day of our life. Pains and aches and bloatedness and fogginess and you name it, which is part of our daily life. There's not one person I talk to that doesn't tell me some of that in their lives. Constipation, I'm bloated, I have a problem here. I have this stiffness in the morning. I can hardly move. Oh, my back is always hurting me. That's inflammation. Remember I told you in the beginning that one of the cardinal symptoms of inflammation is pain? Well, pain is inflammation. You know, anybody that has arthritis, it hurts. But also those dull back pains that people complain about, those are inflammation. And inflammation, this chronic inflammation, we are paying for it. We take our hard-earned money to buy sugar, to buy bad fats, to buy bad foods. We are calorie chasers. We just look for calories to fill up our lives. And it's worse when we feed our children that way, when we teach them that way. We have to teach them to eat something else. We have to go to the web and search for alternatives and say, I'm going to do beans, I'm going to be doing chard, I'm going to be doing spinach, I'm going to be doing carrots, tomatoes, onions, you name it. I'm going to go to the farmer's market in my area and see what's available. Some people don't even know that a few blocks from their house, somebody might be getting asparagus spears or strawberries. We don't know. So we could just walk very little distance and get fresh, honest to God food. And that's what we have to learn. That's what we have to do. I was telling you about these 3 people with chronic inflammatory manifested in a very evil way in the 3 of them, blocking completely their lives, different ages. 30 years old, the youngest. 30 years old. If she were my daughter, I would be crying all day long, with blindness in one eye. So she was in BioCare hospital for about a week, started all the therapy, then she continued doing the whole program, and then she recuperated her sight. But I'm talking to her mother. Don't break the rules. You have to continue with this diet. You have to continue with this lifestyle for as long as you want to be well. The other lady, with all her problems and stiffness and difficulty to move, who gave up all her activities, who gave up all her welfare activities to help people with breast cancer. She had to give it up because she couldn't do it anymore. And the last day she was at BioCare Hospital, she looked magnificent. She had made up her face, she looked very nice yellow dress, and we were very happy on how well she was doing. And then she told me, you know what, doctor? I'm going to tell you something I never told you before. You know what was my day like in the beginning? She said, I would get hardly out of bed, move to one chair that I have in front of a window that looks over to the street, because I wanted to see the world for the last time. Because I knew this was the end. I knew this was the end of my life. And every day, I prayed to God to make it as short as possible. And then she started to cry. And now, I'm going back knowing I'm not going to die anytime soon, knowing I have a job to do, knowing I can help other people, because if I did it this way, some other people can do it. And the other one can't believe that by being at BioCare, things are changing so fast. She says, well, I tried to do this, I tried to do that, but nothing worked, including every single pill her doctors prescribed. neurologist, internist, everybody was given a prescription. She took everything. And she wasn't getting the results she needed until she came to BioCare. Why? Because the minute you're admitted to the hospital, I have told you many times, I'm going to test everything. But I'm going to be a little bit different than a regular hospital because I'm going to be very clear in knowing what are your inflammatory markers. I want to know if your body is actually reacting with inflammation. Because that to me is the key to know what I have to do with you. And I'm going to start changing everything in your bowel. I'm going to produce cleansing in the first place by doing some enemas, some light herbal enemas, because these light herbal enemas, or coffee enemas also, can reduce the inflammation of the intestinal wall. But then you can do implants of good flora. So your body starts recuperating very fast. To me, speed is of essence, because you want to feel good today and tomorrow and next day to know that you're going on the right way. And these people are amazed. Then I change the way you eat. I'm going to feed you several times a day, and I'm going to use really high fiber, good food, palatable food. You know, I get compliments every day of people that tell me, I never realized that eating so good, so well, could be so tasty. And we share recipes. If you follow us on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, you can go to a lot of recipes. Good ideas that you can further explore in other media and say, I want to learn more, I want to educate myself, I can go to some tutorials. Because that's the best quest you can give your life. I'm going to make sure I am healthy. I'm going to make sure I'm performing. Because out of my performance depends my livelihood, first and foremost, but then the livelihood and life of those around you. This is like on the airplane. When they drop the mask, they say, get your one first and then help the others. Why? Because if you lose consciousness, you will not be able to help anybody, including yourself. But if you help yourself, you're going to be able to help people around you. Same with this. You have to make sure you are healthy, first and foremost, because that way you will be able to educate people around. Now, I want you to keep few things in mind. When you choose BioCare Hospital, you are doing a great thing because everything will be possible. A lot of things you had given up are going to come back again. They're going to be part of your life. You're going to have targeted supplementation. You're going to have intravenous feeding. You're going to be given immune enhancers. You're going to be changing your body for the best. So I want you to think of it. Number one, I want to live healthier. I want to educate yourself. But number two, for whenever possible, for your next vacation, mark your calendar and just have a BioCare getaway vacation. You're going to come back healthier, lighter. Instead of taking, for example, a cruise ship, that you're going to come fatter and probably more inflamed than what you left. So we want to help you to make healthy choices. And to learn more about that, I ask you to follow me. If you go to Facebook, to Instagram, to Twitter, mark me as a person you want to follow, because you're going to be getting messages every now and then. It really works well. It works for me in many things, because when I keep getting the message, I keep getting a reminder of what I should be doing. And we all want to be healthy. We all want to be performing. And when you do that, when you follow me, you're going to be getting messages about food, about activities, about physical activity, about programs. And then you start replanning your life around your well-being. Instead of just comfort, which I'm beginning to hate the word when they say, well, I want comfort food, I want to be comfortable. What does that mean? We were given a life, but we were given a responsibility. We were given a life to be taken care of. And if it's hard for you to start, if it's hard, or you feel you have gone too far, if you feel you don't have the help, that is what BioCare Hospital is for. You have a place where you can go, you're going to be understood, you're going to be understood, you're going to be taken care of, you're going to have all the loving care with knowledge that you need to bring back your health. So take this opportunity. Listen to me and don't forget to follow me. I'll see you next program.